I took to the streets of St. George's to hear what people think about the mentally ill. When you think about the mentally ill, what first thing comes to mind?
Someone that's crazy in our terms.
And how do you treat them?
Well, I treat them with the same love I would have for any one of my family members, because personally I believe we're all afflicted with some degree of mental illness.
Mentally, I would say, firstly I would say they have Alzheimer's or they crazy or something.
And how do you treat them?
Well, you have to treat them with care, you have to take care of them. Well, you have to use medication first. You have to know why is the reason why they're mentally ill. What is the problem? You have to know what is the problem, take care of them, don't rough them, because you know they will get violence and then catch it.
The first thing that comes to mind is that person could be unstable. They deal with a lot of things personally. And how do I treat them? Well, most times if someone is mentally unstable, I treat them in a good way. Yeah, try to find out what is the issues or whatnot, and you try to help them and speak to them and see how you can.
Would you call the police?
Yes. Yeah. Depending on how bad it is. If it's someone you could speak to and they can reason with you and you could try to organize with them, then you don't have to call the police. But if somebody mentally unstable and they get on crazy, obviously call the police.
Well, the first thing I'd do is check the doctor for a checkup and see what's going on with them, for the most.
And how do you treat them?
Well, you have to treat them with care, for most likely. You can't treat them no kind of way if they're not in a good condition.
You call the doctor or you bring them to the doctor.
Would you call the police?
Yes, I'll call the police too, but first thing I'll get to the doctor first and then get to the police, or I'll call the police first and then they take it from there. And then you handle them with care, good care. You don't treat people bad when they're mentally ill. You give them the best care that you can give them.
When you speak with patients, what are their concerns? What worries them? People with mental illness, what are some of their concerns?
Well, the concerns, it depends on whether I'm speaking to the patient or to the family, but sometimes, recently this young man was saying to me he doesn't feel as a human, and that is the truth of the matter. He just doesn't feel, so the stigma from from John public or other persons in the community, the fact that he doesn't have a job and he may not get a job, the fact that he may not have a spouse or such a partner. I really can't say that everybody has those feelings and thoughts, but persons are not comfortable with the way society impacts them, or the environment, the community does.
I was curious about whether mentally ill people have been victimized at their jobs. Have you ever had any cases where people come to your office to say they were refused employment or lost their jobs because they live with a mental illness or have a diagnosis?
The answer is no. I have not had any experience of anyone, not me or any colleague in the office here, who spoke to anybody, whether it's on the phone or whether in person, to complain about being discriminated against because they have a mental health problem.
Why do you think that no one has come forward to make a complaint?
It's possible no one has a complaint, but it's also possible because of the perception, and we know the perception is key. There is a perception, in my view, out there that people with mental health problems, they should be kept at a distance. They are dangerous, and people don't understand mental health illness. So perhaps, just perhaps, they're fearful, or perhaps don't even understand that they've been discriminated against. So that is a possible answer.
So tell me, have you had any reports about employers not employing someone because they may have a diagnosis of mental illness?
No, we are not aware of any situation such as this. In fact, we've not had any reports that deal with mental illness, either on the workplace or otherwise. What we have, though, is a number of the collective agreements that were signed with the representative trade unions, including medical assistance for workers. So we believe that if there is a situation where a worker become ill through mental illness, then they can use the coverage provided through these health services to seek attention as the case may arise. However, we have no documentation as to what extent or if there were anyone who became ill and required treatment at the workplace.
Okay. But why do you think that people wouldn't report the employers, or employers would share information of that nature?
Well, first, I don't think it is very widespread. Two, I also believe that Grenada is still a place that certain illness is a taboo, or they are not, the persons who suffer from these ailments or these sickness, they do not want the public to be aware because of, I presume, stigma. And they are afraid that they may be discriminated against. We still label persons with mental illness in a particular context, and we speak of them in a particular manner. And so I guess professionals who become ill do not want to be referred to, or do not want to be categorized or treated in a particular way. So they do not, I think too that they do not report. So even if they go to the doctor and they are diagnosed, they might find another illness to put that under to ensure that they protect their privacy. So that there could be a number of reasons why their persons do not report on mental illness. As a representative body of the ILO in Grenada, one of the main representative body, we know that the ILO recognizes the difficulties and challenges that are associated with persons living with disability, and mental illness falls under that category of that category. So they have recognized in Article 159 that persons need to be given equal opportunity at the workplace, but also that they're given a fair opportunity for treatment and rehabilitation, as one would do with any other disability. So if the ILO recognizes how important it is, then we too as an organization, a representative of that international body, also recognizes how important it is, and we advocate on behalf of employers. And
the Ministry of Labor, the Ombudsman Office, as well as the Grenada Employers Federation have told me no, they have never had cases where people come to report that they lost a job or did not get employed because of mental illness. Do you think it's fair on the part of the person who might have gotten laid off, or who think that they were, what do you think?
I don't think so. I think that probably what is happening is that the individual who lost the job doesn't feel so empowered to go to the Ministry of Labor and say, hey, this is what this employer did to me, or go to the other places the other entities that you mentioned there. I think that is more likely what it is than to say it doesn't happen. Because I could tell you about a case. The reason the person wasn't fired was because of the HR person, but there was a gentleman who worked in one of these business places and had to have he was off sick, and I signed the sick leave. So when he went to the Human Resources Office to drop in the form, the question was asked of him why I had to sign the form. Well, he didn't have any reason to state, because it's a personal thing. It's that he is mentally ill. And thereafter the calls came, oh, he was sitting there and he's looking up in the sky and all of these, and he's been there for half an hour before, just waiting to be seen without any concerns. But so quite often the illness gets there before the patient, and it happens. Like I said, I don't have anything factual about it, nothing documented, but patients had said so quite often. They won't get a job. There's a guy who came, I could recall, and he said, oh, about walk on the road, and so it's there. It happens, and I wouldn't be convinced that it doesn't happen at all. I wouldn't be convinced of that.
This is politician Delma Thomas. She is very open about family members who live with mental illness.
So my mother has mental illness. I also have a younger sister that was diagnosed many months ago with mental illness. She now lives in the US. So it has been a difficult period, but I did not grow up with my mother. So it's not a case that, and she did not have mental illness all her life. She got sick in her late 20s abroad. So when I get to know her, my mother, I was already maybe 16 going on 17. But having to deal, is not easy dealing with them on many fronts. Even them not willing to take medication and reacting in a particular way at home affected us. And then we also have to deal with the whole issue of stigma and discrimination by public. So it's really a tough disease. The whole issue of mental issues is really tough in terms of you have to deal with the effect of the medication on your body. So she has to deal with that. And then she also has to deal with the stigma and discrimination by members of the public. And so as family members, we also had to deal with those particular issues that affected us as children and as family members.
Okay, you said you didn't grow with her, but when you found out about it, how did you deal with it then? And how are you handling it now?
So it was tough then, and it made you feel sad, because people know that your mother is, and they would say your mother mad and all this story, so that make you feel sad. I mean, you're younger, you're not taking it as serious as yes, it's affecting you, but you have not taken it as serious as when I get older. So when I get older and I got involved in politics, it was used against me on the platform to say, are you going to be voting for a mad woman? And people...
Was that the language used?
That was exactly the language, that I am a mad woman, and and they didn't even mention my mother. They made it look like I was mentally ill too. And that's not somebody you want to represent you. And I also had experience driving through, going to a rally, and there were some people dressed in the party colors shouting at me that you need to go up to Monge, that's where you belong, nowhere else. That's after I already served one term in office. That was 2018 by Decal gas station there. So it has been, the whole stigma and discrimination is real, and the truth is it affects us as human beings. We could pretend that it's not affecting us, but it affects, you think about it, sometimes you feel sad and all that.
As a person, how do you, not as a minister, how do you think, just as a regular Grenadian, well, you can't step away from being a minister, but anyhow, what do you think could be done to get people conscious as to the language they use when they're dealing with people with mental illness? I know education is one, but what do you really think can be done?
Well, education is key, and maybe the most important thing in terms of educating people from small. Just recently we saw a video circulating with two teenage persons abusing somebody who's mentally ill. So it means that we have to start from very young, teaching our children that they respect everyone, despite of the condition, whether they're mentally ill or whether they have some other condition, disabilities also. We should respect them. So we should provide an avenue where we educate our children, where we have constant programs that give information on how to deal with people with mental illness. The truth is, mental illness is like any other disease that can confront us. And as I always say, there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. So today we can be here good, and tomorrow that something can trigger and cause us to be sick. And it could happen to any family. And so we always have to put ourselves in the shoes of those families who have been suffering with mental illness, just in case we become victim of that, how we will want to be treated. So we treat people the way we want to be treated at all times.
As a minister and the minister for social development and housing and all of that, how is your ministry helping people with mental illness access housing, employment? What are you doing?
Well, there's two aspects that we are integrally involved in. Housing, so we work along with the people from the Ministry of Health, the people who deal with them on a daily basis, and so we'll provide assistance for them as it relates to housing, and also the seed support, so this financial support that is being given. We also work with them to provide those means of assistance. But in terms of employment, I cannot say that that we have some. Our ministry do not deal with means of employment, but I believe that they are employable. Once, as family members, we can work with them to ensure that they take the medications regularly. They are normal. They can be normal and live normal lives. But all they need is the support from not only the medical practitioners, but the families and friends.
What can we do to help the mentally ill among us in our community?
Yes, there's an organization known as the Friends of the Mentally Ill. It's been around for time. We advocate on behalf of the patients for their rights. They try to get benefits. We work with other organizations, other entities in the community, in the churches, and so to make life bearable, and we use some of we use funds to help patients to provide for themselves, to pay utility bills, and whatever way help is needed.
I go back to what the word you used when you first came in, stigma. Let us be absolutely clear that mental health is a gift. And therefore, the first thing, if you are mentally healthy, thank God for the gift. But sometimes it is useful to ask yourself, are there any areas in my life in which I am mentally unwell? What are my prejudices? What are my irrational fears? All of these things point to somebody being mentally not as balanced as a human being can be. And when you begin to acknowledge these things in yourself, you become much more open to the mental illness that may afflict other people. Because as I said in the beginning, you recognize that you too have your mental problems to go with. I always say to myself, there, but for the grace of God, go I. There was a man the other day who was having trouble with his wife. The marriage is on the brink of breaking up, and he's on the brink of a nervous breakdown. Now, if I was in his shoes, how would I be reacting? I learned that early on in life, that you cannot judge because you do not know what you would do in that person's shoes. So you try to help, and a very important part of helping is listening, to learn how to listen to people. To learn, because many a person who is mentally ill will tell you, nobody ever listened to me, They will tell you that. They have tried to voice their anger, their frustrations, their concerns. And we write them off as only mad. But to listen. And one of the things that we need to do more in our parish communities is to develop groups of listening people. Support groups for those who are mentally ill. Support groups in which you have a qualified social worker, mental health professional who will sit with the group. But here in Grenada, one of the things which we've just begun to work on is the whole question of mental illness as a pastoral focus. When I came, I put that forward for the diocese as a pastoral focus. So we have 3 pastoral focuses. One is education, one is food security, and another one is mental health. So we are now beginning to unveil that. COVID-19 threw us back 2 years, but a major challenge for the Catholic Church in Grenada is going to be that Mount Gay cannot keep mentally ill people forever, right? So in many instances, they have to send people back to their communities. If you're sending them back to their communities, they're going back very often to people who don't know what to do with them.
What is your plan? You say it's part of your...
Well, what we are looking at, and we're just beginning the discussions, we are looking at every parish must have a small group of people. And when I say every parish, I mean every parish church. You have 21 parishes in Grenada. Must have a small group of people who are willing to be trained, and this is not just train, get a certificate, but people are willing to be trained to identify mental illness, to learn how to help people, and especially to learn how to support families, because that is where the main challenge is. How do you support a family as they try to welcome back somebody who has tripped, had a nervous breakdown, is suffering from bipolar, these are things which are there. And one of the things which I think has been a great blessing for the church is that now the church is open to acknowledging that even priests are mentally ill. A bipolar priest is a reality. A priest who has schizophrenia is a reality. And they get help, they get medication. Very often, because they are priests, they don't have to deal with stigma. But the fact that one can say now, you see, the thing was that as soon as long ago, when the priests were all Irish or English, from the moment they had some kind of nervous breakdown, they sent them back to Ireland. So people never understood that priests had these problems. People never understood that a priest can grow old and become and have dementia. We have Father Mark Haynes is in one of our senior citizens' homes. So this reality is now present, and therefore we better be able to deal with it, I think. So I am hoping, I'm just starting a ministry, but I hope as the years go by, that ministry really flourish. And the whole church in Grenada will have a sense that these things happen, the stresses of life, the stresses of COVID, for example. We have to talk a lot more about how people are affected by COVID. When you are accustomed to doing what you want, going out free, men especially, they come home and they go out in the night and lie by the fellas. When COVID told you for a year that you can't lie, that has a tremendous stress and strain on you.
We need to have mental health check-in spots. So if someone knows of the signs of how they are debilitating mentally, meaning to change and to get lower, you have that check-in point, right? Somebody knows where the check-in stop is. That is my recommendation, and that's innovative from me because I've always thought of it. A mental health check-in spot. So we know, listen, something is going on, let's get some tests done, let's do a psych assessment, and let's run a treatment plan, and let's get this person back to where they feel the need to be productive in their life again.
Have you done any work with your stakeholders and so on regarding mental health in the workplace and so on?
We've just concluded a workshop on stress management, and we believe that one of the root causes of mental illness can be stress related to the workplace or to family or to other situations. So that workshop dealt with areas that managers, middle managers can use to help alleviate stress-related issues at the workplace. How to manage stress, activities that they can take part in, how to de-stress, how to identify that you're stressed, stressors, how best the workplace could be made to be less stressful. And they got good tips and ideas as to how to manage. Now, if person's stress levels go down, especially when it's they're under pressure in the workplace, then obviously they will be better able to cope mentally. And so we believe that that workshop was a very timely one. It was one that was the participants said that they enjoyed thoroughly, and to me it was, and based on the feedback we got from the participants, it was very successful, and they plan to reach out to other members of staff and to employ these strategies and tactics they would have learned at the workshop.
What do you say to the general public about dealing with people who are mentally disturbed?
Well, I want to say to the general public, you're not an expert. First of all, get the people who you know are expert in those fields. I found as a pastor, persons come to me and they give me a story. My first question to them is, did you check the doctor? And they will give me some stories. And I would say to them, how do you know that this is your situation? So I believe it is important for the general public to understand here. And I want to take the opportunity to say to us, while most of the things that happen to us, it is spiritual in nature, because I want to make a statement to the public. And the statement I'm making to the public, so many times we have heard that man has a spirit. The truth is, man doesn't have a spirit. The statement is not correct. Man is a spirit living in a dot house, because that's what we talk about humus man. So we have the word human, which means humus has to do with dot. So man is the spirit that is living in the dot house. And because man is a spirit and he lives in a dot house, the Bible said we wrestle, but our wrestle is not against flesh and blood, as you and I fighting against one another, trying to chop one another, but we wrestle against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we have to also understand that man is an emotional being. And so we need to pay attention to this. So before you jump to conclusion, in believing that somebody would have done that individual, I want to say to the general public, you need to look at the case that you have and refer the person to the people you know that can help in that situation, and to have them give you a proper diagnosis as to what the situation might be. And as I said earlier, I myself as a pastor, I work with the medical person and to be able to help persons along the journey.
But Grenada said to yell and tell. Grenada said to speak up against abuse. And right now Grenada is abusing me and they want me to shut up.
If you traverse St. George's, you most likely will see Jeanette Amada preaching around the town. Now she says she does not have a mental illness, but she shared part of her story with me.
Oh, my full name is Jeanette Ireland Amade, and I'm 61 years old.
You look great for 61.
Oh, thank you very much. You sure? Yeah, I'm 61 years old.
What year and month you were born?
23rd of October 1960.
You look great.
Thank you.
So, have you ever lived out of Grenada?
Yes.
Where?
United States.
And in what capacity? What did you do over there?
I went first to America as a student. I studied medical technology, and I've been working in medical technology until God told me to stop working because He wanted to spend more time with me to prepare me for ministry.
What age was that?
I was about 30-something, I believe.
What sparked that? What caused that?
Well, since I was in high school, Anglican High School in Grenada, when I was concerned what I'm supposed to be or what I should do, I had a revelation that I'm supposed to preach. But I was in a Seventh Adventist church, and you know that church is full of compromises, and all sort of stuff happened to me. And
when you say stuff happened to you, what happened?
Well,
to you?
I was sexually abused.
By who?
By my first boyfriend. And so I told myself I wasn't perfect, I wasn't good enough to preach. So I turned away from going after the ministry, pursuing ministry. And I did medical technologies just as a means of having finance to take care of myself.
Medical technology, what specific?
Laboratory work, laboratory testing, I worked in blood banks. I worked in a hospital. I was a supervisor in a blood bank.
Where?
In Florida, Broad Community Blood Center.
So when did you return to Grenada?
In the year 2002 permanently. Since I'm here.
Many a times people see you walking around talking in St. George's and they assume that you're mentally disturbed. Is that the case?
No, I'm not mentally disturbed. What happened a couple of years ago, about 6 years ago, yes, my father went to the Masonic Lodge and paid them to turn me into a prostitute. He wanted to have sex with me and he paid for sex. And they told him he must get it. He came after me in the spirit and told me he must get it. But he didn't realize who I am, because before I came to Grenada, one of my family members called and said, Jeanette's gone crazy, simply because I stopped working because God told me to. And because I stopped working, I lost my house because there's nobody to assist me. But on that point, in a prayer meeting, God had already warned me that he was taking me on a Job experience. I know people don't believe those things happen today, but they still do. God still people on Job, like Job lost everything. Same way I lost everything. I lost the house and etc. And I also had a dream that I was going to lose everything. I saw I lose my time card, when you're punching for work. But I realized I kept my passport and some other document, my social security number. Yeah. But everything else, I pretty much lost the contents of the house and etc. Gave away some stuff, but I lost most of it.
So, were you ever institutionalized in the United States?
No, I was never mentally unstable, mentally ill.
When you came back to Grenada, did you ever go to Mongay?
No.
Okay.
Well, on that point, when I came back and I went to see my father, he was looking down. He wouldn't look at me in my face. I was like, wondering what's happened to him. But then I realized people had told him that I was crazy. So one day he said to me, Jeanette, you don't look like you're crazy. You're dressing nice, you're looking clean, you're wearing rags. And so he was waiting to see me go crazy, actually. And then an uncle of mine, my father's brother, he said, Jeanette, you're not talking like somebody who's crazy. And so I explained to them, what happened, etc. The reason why nobody knew who I am and what my potential was is because when I started having experiences with God and I shared with people, some people don't understand and they would say you're crazy. And then one time I shared with my sister that Jesus would come and sit on my bed and talk to me. And I don't know if she got jealous or whatever. She went and she told the pastor about it. Then the pastor went and preached from the pulpit without consulting me.
What church is that?
It was one of those non-denominational fellowships. And so she went on pulpit and said, all the people so wicked talking about how God coming and sit on your bed and talking to you. So I said to myself, where'd she get that from? And I realized it's my sister who told her, so I stopped talking. So none of my family members knew what happened between me and God after that. And on the 15th of September, 6 years ago, God told me it was time to preach. Because for all these years I wasn't doing anything major, just talking one-on-one. And the message he gave me to Grenada was to tell Grenada they're working too much witchcraft. And that was it. And the first day was fine. The second day, well, they had I started preaching right in this area. And the second day, they filled up the place with demons. So I had to run the demons first before I could even speak. And since then, they've been stalking me with witchcraft every day, especially sex demons, demons to blind my eyes, demons to cripple my legs, demons to break my back, demons to give me cancer, also anything you could think about.
Have you ever been beaten by anybody in the community?
Me and my neighbors beat me up, they bust up my mouth. And
what do you go to the police?
I went to the police. When I went, and I called the police, they didn't come at first. So I called CID and CID came. And then they gave me a paper to go to the hospital. And I had a court case recently, well, about a couple months ago, and I was supposed to get $1,000 compensation, which I have not gotten, and it's being passed due. And the compensation is they're supposed to pay a certain time or go to jail, and somebody's blocking all of that.
How do you take care of yourself?
The Lord provides through individuals. I had a regular supply of money from friends and family, but there's a man, I don't know if I could call name, he because he has a position in the lodge, he's been calling members of my family and different individuals and telling them don't assist me. Some people want to give me money and telling them don't give me. Some of them could only give me $5 Like recently, somebody bought some coconuts from me and they cannot pay me because the man don't want me to have no money. They're sabotaging my instruments at home, like my weed eater for cutting the grass. They just want to make my life a living hell so that I would leave.
You are
Grenada.
an intelligent woman. Listening to yourself, do you really believe that Jesus talks to you?
I just believe it. I know it. I've seen him ever since I was 9 years old. He came the first time and spoke to me. My mother usually take us to Juve, and so we were planning to go the next Monday morning Juve, and Jesus came from heaven, stood next to me, and said, "Jeanette, you're not supposed to go to stuff like that." So I said, "Okay," and I didn't go. So then something said to me, if I tell my mother God just spoke to me, she would say I'm crazy. So I didn't tell nobody. I just didn't go. Because whenever you talk to God, people want to say you're crazy.
How do you know it's witchcraft?
Okay. I am gifted in the Spirit. I have all the gifts of the Spirit, and I will operate in all the offices of the Spirit. I was baptized in the Holy Ghost and also baptized by fire. And God has been teaching me, He's been equipping me, because I have a ministry of healing and deliverance. I have cast demons out of people already. I run demons out of people's houses already. And in fact, I run a baku from my sister's house. And I have seen some demons already. I told the Lord I didn't really want to see them because they're ugly and stuff. But anyway, I did see several. And so that is my calling in life. I'm a ministry of healing and deliverance to cast demons out of people.
People are not taking you seriously, are they?
No, they're not taking me seriously. Some are, but the majority are not. You see, before I came to Grenada, my family, a family member of mine told people that Jeanette went crazy. So they believe that, and some people want to stick with that, even though they see a difference. Like for instance, when I first started preaching, a man came to me and he said, Jeanette, I thought you were crazy. But then when he heard me speak, when he heard me pray in tongues to get rid of the demons, he was convinced that I wasn't. I mean, a lot of people come to the realization that I'm not, so. But some people, they just like to keep your past and put, just to drag you down. We have a lot of mental illness in Grenada, and some of it is due to witchcraft or black magic, white magic, whatever means they use, whether it's voodoo or not. And so some mental illness, you have to cast a demon out. And what happens is like somebody might go through trauma, and the demons take advantage of a traumatic situation and they enter without permission in a person's life. So a lot of prayer have to go along with mental illness, not just counseling, because you can't counsel the demon on the inside.
Thank you for viewing and being a part of this series on how fear and stigma affect the way mentally ill people are treated in Grenada. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am Serrana Mitchell. Take care of you.